Everyone. Hope you're all well. I wanted to continue on my Legend series, and today I wanted to give someone who was one of the best wicket keepers, batsmen of all time, and someone who holds the world record for the most Test dismissals with 555 dismissals, and also the world record for the highest dismissals by a wicketkeeper in international cricket, which is 998, and someone who was an excellent batsman in his own rights against pace and spin, and someone who could attack spin bowlers at will, and someone who played a very crucial innings for his country, and someone who also had a very unfortunate eye injury that stopped and halted his international cricket career, and someone who was also the vice captain of his country, and the one who scored the winning run in the greatest one day internationals ever, the 438 match versus Australia, where he scored the winning run for South Africa. I'm talking about South Africa's fantastic wicketkeeper batsman, Mark Boucher. He was born December 3, 1976, in East London, in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa, and he played first class cricket for Border from mid 90s onwards, and he was just excellent since he made his Test debut against Pakistan in 97, which I'll come back to later. In all, he played 147 Test matches for South Africa, and he scored 5,515 runs, and he scored 500s for a wicketkeeper, and his average was about 30, and his highest was 125, which was at that time the highest Test score by a night watchman when he scored 125 against Zimbabwe. And in one day internationals, he played 295 matches and he scored 4,686 runs, and he scored 100, and his highest was 147 not out against Zimbabwe, which came off just 68 balls. He was, again, like I said, an excellent batsman who was excellent all around the wicket and who could play really good shots, just like a top order batsman, and he could have achieved a lot more if he batted higher up the order. And he was also one of the Wisden cricketers of the year in 2009, and he was also the vice captain of South Africa with Sean Pollock captain, and also when Graham Smith was the captain, and he was the wicketkeeper of South Africa when South Africa were the number one Test team, when Graham Smith was the captain, and Dale Steyn was like the leading bowler in Test cricket as well. And when you talk about wicket keepers, obviously the first two that will come to mind as batsmen are Kumar Sangakkara and Adam Gilchrist, and Andy Flower, obviously, of Zimbabwe also. And I would say Mark Waja was definitely the fourth best wicket-keeper batsman that I've seen. West Indian Clyde Walcott also obviously was an amazing batsman. I haven't seen him play live. But Mark Boucher was just an excellent batsman who had a really good technique. And I always remember in 1997 he made his debut against Pakistan at Wanderers Johannesburg, and Gary Kirsten was the captain of South Africa. Gary Kirsten, sorry, I had a call. Gary Kirsten was the captain of South Africa in that match, not Hansi Cronje, and Amir Sohail was the captain of Pakistan in that match as well. And South Africa in the first innings was struggling at a 166 for 8, and Mark Boucher was making his debut, and he put on a 195 run partnership with Pat Simcox, and he scored 78 in that innings, and Pat Simcox scored 100 as well. The match was drawn, but he announced himself on the international scene with that 78 innings in that Wanderers test, and he was just very fluent, and everyone who saw him could see that he was a real talent and a big future player for South Africa, and he obviously lived up to his reputation. And I will never forget that 1999 World Cup match against India, where South Africa had to chase 254, and Gary Kirsten and Herschel Gibbs, both openers, were out cheaply. South Africa were 22 for 2, and Hansi Cronje sent Mark Boucher as the third, number 3 batsman, and he scored a quick fire 34 of just 36 balls, and he really played Anil Kumble well, and I remember some paddle sweeps, and that was such a crucial innings for South Africa, and South Africa won that match by 4 wickets. And I always think that Mark Boucher should have been sent as a pinch hitter early in the innings. He could have really achieved a lot more with his batting. He was really a really fluent batsman. And it was just unfortunate what happened in 2012. I remember I was working at Caltex, and he was playing a club match against, sorry, a county match against Somerset when South Africa were touring England. And Imran Tahir, the leg spinner, was bowling, and he bowled a batsman, and the bails hit Mark Boucher's left eye, and he had a serious injury, and he eventually had an operation on his eye, and his international career ended. It was 9th July, I think, and he retired 10th July. So that was a very unfortunate incident. And when I was an internal auditor in South Africa, I mean, Mark Boucher's second cousin was a colleague of mine, and she was a very good friend of mine. Her grandmother and Mark Boucher's grandmother are the same. And he was also a very active activist, really active and passionate about campaign against rhino poaching in South Africa. After his eye injury, he really worked a lot for campaign against rhino poaching and was very passionate about it, and is a very very good friend of Graham Smith and Jack Callis. They're very close, three of them. And Mark Boucher has made some big contributions for South African cricket. And in 2019, he was appointed as the head coach of the South African national team. And he also IPL the first season, I think that he played for Royal Challengers Bangalore as well. And he was really good against spin. I always say, I mean, South African team were weak at that time against spin, but Mark Boucher was one of the players who could attack spin really well, and he really used to use his feet well and could attack spinners at will. And there was a time in late 90s that South Africa was so blessed with all-rounders, and Mark Boucher also in the team. And there was a time when South Africa's last five batsmen in Test cricket averaged more than their first five batsmen. Top or like the lower order for last five batsmen averaged more than the top five. And Mark Boucher was main contributor in that statistics. Sean Pollock, Lance Klusener, Pat Cox, all were batting in the last five, and they used to contribute more than the top five. And that was one of the big strengths of South African cricket in the late 90s. The last five batsmen who used to contribute well, and it was so difficult to get the last five wickets out for South Africa. It was more difficult to get the last five batsmen out than the top order. That is why South Africa are always like the second number two test team in the world after Australia. Obviously, Australia with the Glenn McGrath, Shane Warne, and all the batsmen and bowlers. Australia were always the number one test team, but South Africa were always the unofficial number two in world test cricket, and that is mainly due to their all-rounders, bowlers, and Mark Boucher being there as a wicket keeper as well. That is my video on Mark Boucher, and just a roundup. I mean, he has the world record for the most test dismissals, 555, most dismissals in international cricket, 998. And he scored a 21 ball century, half century against Netherlands in the 2007 World Cup. But at that point, it was the fastest half century in World Cup history. But that was later broken by Brendan McCullum in the same tournament as well. And he also held the record once for the highest score by a night watchman in a test match when he scored 125 against Zimbabwe. And I just want to say thank you so much to Mark Boucher for all the great memories, for all his services to South African cricket, and for being an excellent player for South Africa, and also a big performer in world cricket, and for really keeping high standards of wicket keeping and batsmanship. And thank you for all the memories, and you'll always be remembered as a great legend of Test cricket and South African cricket for sure. Thank you everyone for joining. Take care. God bless you.